Thank you for joining today's MuleSoft meetup session. I am Smile Nagpal. I am from product management in Salesforce. MuleSoft to be more close to this community. And joining me is Kevin Kane. I'd request Kevin to introduce himself.
I'm a principal member of the technical staff here in MuleSoft, the engineering area. So currently supporting Smile for the MCP connector. In the past, I've been also on the professional services side of things as a consultant for customers, helping them use our products for many years. And if you're familiar with MuleSoft, you're probably familiar with the MuleSoft accelerators. I was the lead architect for that group for a few years while that initiative was underway, which we created quite a few pre-built solutions for different industry use cases. So excited to be here and looking forward to doing a more technical deep dive into the MCP connector.
Thank you, Kevin. And just to share a few things about me, I'm a PM in the connectivity org specifically, look after a lot of connectors, also specialized AI connectors like MCP, as well as participating in bringing MCP to the agent registry, which is a crucial part of MuleSoft Agent Fabric. And I also work with other Salesforce products like Data Cloud Activations, ITSM, and help bring connectivity to them as well. So very excited to be here. And today, I think we are going to talk about something which is very interesting as well, the Model Context Protocol, or MCP. And more importantly, how MuleSoft is making it incredibly easy to leverage this protocol with our MCP connector. This is game changer for anyone who's building AI agents or integrating LLMs into their enterprise applications. So let's dive in. Yes, so here's what we'll cover today. We'll start with the fundamentals. I know most of you might already be aware of what MCP is and why you should care about it, but I'll just cover it in quickly. And then we'll explore MuleSoft's MCP support and how it solves real-world integration challenges. We have a demo that we will show you, a recorded one, which we will then follow up with a technical deep dive session. Kevin will walk us through that. And then I will walk you through with some of the customer scenarios, real implementations that I have seen. And I'll give you a sneak peek on the roadmap as well, what features that we are working on. While this connector is specifically, follows the spec, the MCP spec that is out there, and we use the underlying Java SDK. So we try to do nothing less, nothing more than what spec offers. However, with the power of MuleSoft, I think you guys know already, there is a lot can be done and a lot can be achieved to make excellent agentic use cases and offer solutions to the customers. Towards the end, I'll also leave you with some of the resources that I have gathered and I put on the slides. And let's just jump into the first topic. So what is MCP? MCP is an open standard, initially launched by Anthropic. I think everybody's aware of that. And it is important that it's open because it's not proprietary to any one vendor. And that's why I feel that community has picked it up. It's designed to connect AI systems with data sources in standardized way. Think about the challenge we face today. AI models are incredibly powerful. LLMs, how they were when ChatGPT had launched the generative AI first, and what they can do if you have had a chance to play with Claude Code or something more advanced in real time. Recently that was released. You would have just seen how quickly they are changing. And that's why the protocol has become so much more important, because we are seeing customers move on from their POCs to actual actionable use cases. And however, what they need, or what customers need, is a way to connect to their systems so they can perform actions. And they need to do that with the right context. So MCP solves this by providing a unified protocol instead of building custom integrations for every single data or API. The key components of the protocol are prompts, tools, resources, and of course, they keep, the protocol keeps evolving. So there are some more features that have been added recently, but let's try to dive deep into some of these shortly. You may have again heard this, but I love this analogy from the MCP documentation directly. Think of MCP like a USB-C port. So we had Lightning, chargers for iPhones. We had Type C, USB-C, or even before, some other models. But now, how USB-C has become a standard for connecting hardware. Similarly, MCP is that standard for connecting AI systems to or LLMs to data sources and systems. We don't need a different cable for every device. And similarly, we don't need a different integration for every API. Let's talk about how MCP actually works. It follows a simple but powerful client-server architecture. On one side, you have hosts. These are your LLM applications like Claude Desktop, IDEs, Cursor, even MuleSoft has its client application through the connector. With these hosts, you have clients that maintain persistent connections with the servers. And on the other side, you have servers that expose the actual functionality, the context, tools, prompts that your AI needs. Why is this architecture so beneficial? First, it standardizes AI development, and I will focus on standardize. I think connection between AI systems or LLMs to external systems have been from quite some time, but there was no standard or there was no protocol that was widely accepted. And that's why once MCP was launched and it became popular, there is no need for reinventing the wheel for every integration. You build an MCP server once, and any MCP compatible client can use it. You get context-rich AI applications because your models have access to the data they need. And finally, there's a clear separation of concerns. Your AI team can focus on model logic or think of how to enhance, how to guardrail. And the integration teams, if there are so much divisions in your companies, they will focus on exposing those APIs or building MCP tools. So this is exactly where MuleSoft also shines. And let me share how. But before we go there, let me paint a picture of the problem that MCP solves. Double click on what we just discussed. Look at this diagram. Imagine you have multiple AI agents, maybe powered by Claude or OpenAI or something that you have built with MuleSoft. Each agent needs access to your customer data, inventory, as well as internal systems. In the traditional approach, what happens? Each agent requires custom integration. You're writing custom code to describe your APIs, create functions, tools, and expose resources for each different agent framework. This is not scalable at all. While it increases more work for us, yes, but it's not efficient. It's not maintainable, and it's quite a mess, to be honest. If you have 10 AI agents and 20 data sources, just multiply that and you have 200 different combinations, right? This fragmented approach is expensive, error-prone, and slows down innovation because rather than thinking of use cases and solving them, integration teams are busy creating these. And this is exactly the pain point that MCP addresses. And this is where MCP support or the MCP connector comes in to answer to this challenge. Our value proposition is quite simple. Transform any API or any app that you have into an agent-ready asset. Bring MCP to every API. With MuleSoft MCP connector, you can expose any API as an MCP server in minutes using pre-built operations, whether it's a REST, SOAP, server, database, SaaS application. If MuleSoft can connect to it, then you can turn it into an MCP server. Your models and agents can now expand their knowledge from any source system. Again, some of these things might work in combination within the Mule flow, right? Not just alone by MCP connector, but the beauty is because it is part of the flow, you can cherry pick and add vector databases, RAG sources, and MCP connector together to unlock and build context-rich AI applications. Third, secure and stable AI ecosystems. This is huge for enterprises. You're securing and standardizing communication with AI agents through Anypoint's proven governance capabilities. You get all the security, logging, and policy enforcement you're already familiar with. And we're not just stopping there, we are building more and more, which is more relevant for the agentic use cases. Now look at this architecture. With MuleSoft MCP support in place, same scenario. We have multiple AI agents, we have multiple data sources, but notice the difference. You have a single MCP layer powered by MuleSoft sitting in between your agents and data. Whether you are using OpenAI or Anthropic or building with MuleSoft's Mac, they all speak the same language, MCP. You build your integrations once, expose them as MCP servers, and any MCP compatible agent can consume them. This is the power of standardization. You've gone from potentially hundreds of point-to-point integrations to a scalable, maintainable architecture. Architecturally, this vision is very important. This implementation is very important because this is what enterprises need. We don't want to create thousands of unmaintainable integrations, but offer some sense of order to this chaos. Now, I talked about MCP connector, but let me also mention how within MuleSoft, there are complementary capabilities that help offer and build on top of the apps that you use or the MCP servers that you build. And one of them, the most important one, is the governance layer. Of course, it's the most critical aspect for enterprises. And this is what has been preventing the adoption, if at all. And this is where MuleSoft really differentiates from other companies as well. We are providing a lot of out-of-the-box enterprise-ready policies for emerging agentic standards, not just for MCP, A2A, and other protocols also. But what does this mean practically? First, you can enrich agentic conversations with guardrails in real time. Think of rate limiting, access control, data masking, all the policies, and plus more that you may have used and have been protecting your APIs with. You can also do that to your MCP servers. Second, you get standardized observability of agentic interactions with logging policies. You can see exactly what your agents are accessing, when and why. And this is also crucial from the compliance and debugging perspective. We have visualizer as a visual layer also, which shows you all these interactions. And this is crucial for compliance as well as for debugging. Thirdly, you can build governance from day one before agents are operating at scale. You don't have to wait until your agents are running in production. With MuleSoft, it's baked in from the start. And you can try it. You can put it in your sandboxes. You can test it and then move it on and make it production ready. One thing more that I want to mention is how MuleSoft makes this easy to build MCP servers with our AI-powered development tools, MuleSoft Vibes. You can generate and modify flows with natural language. Just describe what you want your MCP server to do. Vibes will generate that flow for you. And I think Kevin later on will also show you a sneak peek of how it helps and how it reduces the time taken for this kind of development. Once generated, you can run and debug your server locally in Anypoint Code Builder. And you have full visibility and control over the integration logic. Add your business logic, improve it, fix it if you have to. And then when you're ready, you can even deploy it to Cloud or to or Fabric, Runtime Fabric, with a single click or a natural command. This dramatically reduces the time to build MCP servers. And what might have taken days or weeks can be done in hours or at least a couple of days to the least. You're leveraging AI to build integrations for AI. It's pretty neat when you think about it. And just because I mentioned earlier agent registry being part of the MuleSoft Agent Fabric, we also added MCP metadata from the registry in Anypoint Exchange. This centralizes and enables discovery of remote MCP servers across your organization. So if you directly want to kickstart your actionability in the apps that you're building or in the MuleSoft broker that you're using, you can directly discover these remote MCP servers in Exchange and start adding them to your agent network. This is a central repository of a curated list of MCP servers, which we think are going to add value to enterprises. Your teams can discover what MCP servers already exist, manage them centrally, govern them, protect them with the API manager, and then use it. You can also get easy access and accelerated governance for these third-party MCP servers, like I was saying, right? And when you protect it and use it, you control how your organizations are using it. Of course, you can directly add the URLs for these third-party MCP servers also in broker, but then it is you cannot control, you cannot look who's using it. You can't put any PII or any other protection governance layer on top of it if that's the case. So that's these kind of use cases are fairly common and requirements we have seen from the enterprises, and that's why I'm bringing in these. Now, okay, let me be enough with the slides. There is a pre-recorded demo that we have. Let me share that, and then I will hand it over to Kevin, who will walk you through a little bit more in, he'll do a technical deep dive and show how this actually works under the hood. But before that, let me play this. Let me know if you guys can see the screen.
In this demo, we will show an agentic experience built using MuleSoft's Anypoint MCP connector. Imagine this, Max.
I just want to take a pause here, and you're able to hear the voice as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
In this demo, we will show an agentic experience built using MuleSoft's Anypoint MCP connector. Imagine this, Max, an employee, wants to check his leave balance and possibly apply for one. Also organize his calendar to reflect his accurate availability. In past, he'd had to log into multiple systems to achieve this. But what if Max could do all of that with a simple chat in natural language? That's exactly what we'll demonstrate today. Let's dive into Anypoint Code Builder. The magic starts by clicking on Create an MCP Server. This instantly integrates the tool listener operation from MCP connector, setting the stage for building powerful AI consumable tools. Our first tool will address a common employee need, retrieving time of balances from Workday. We'll define a clear descriptive name first. Then we'll enter the description. Next, we define the input parameters for this tool using JSON schema. This is crucial because it tells the AI agent exactly what information it needs to execute the tool successfully. For instance, employee ID is required because without it, we can't identify the employee. Once the inputs are defined, we build the data transformation to format the request for Workday. This ensures our data speaks Workday's language. We paste in the data weave code. Now we bring in the Workday connector's absence management operation. We configure it with the necessary details, like connector configuration and authentication. Then simply pass the transformed payload as input. It's that easy to connect to complex enterprise systems using ACV. Finally, we transform the Workday output back into a clean JSON format for the AI agent to consume easily. Lastly, we define the response for our tool. We want to share everything back that comes from Workday. And just like that, our first intelligent tool is ready. For this demo, I have already pre-built 3 more tools. Let me show you. This one is to create calendar events in Google, like setting up out of office, etc. This one to get the existing calendar events from Google Calendar. And the last one, to request time off. This is used to apply leaves in Workday. Now let's switch gears and see this in action from the AI agent's perspective. We'll follow Max as he plans his vacation. Max starts the interaction with the agent by asking how much leave balance he has. The agent understands Max's intent, identifies the right tool, extracts the employee ID, and then executes the tool and retrieves the balance. The agent almost instantly responds with Max's leave balance. Max is delighted and thinks of taking 2 days off. The AI agent again recognizes the intent to submit leave and identifies the right tool, gathers the dates, and seamlessly integrates with Workday. Wow, that was quick. Max also wants to set his calendar unavailability during this time. The agent understands the next step, invokes the Google Calendar tool to create the events, updating Max's calendar without him lifting a finger in another application. As you can see, by leveraging the Anypoint MCP connector, we have demonstrated a truly intuitive and efficient employee experience. Max went from a thought to a completed vacation request and calendar update, all through a simple conversation. This just isn't about convenience, it's about boosting productivity, reducing friction, and creating a more engaged workforce.
All right. And just to mention here that this particular use case is actually a real use case that we have seen implemented in a customer's organization. And that's how, we thought, okay, let's create a demo out of it also and kind of share with you how really people are using it. I will hand it over to Kevin now. Please, Kevin, take it away.
Thanks, Smile. Now let's take a deeper dive into how we can actually use the connector to expose an existing REST API as a set of MCP tools. This is one of the use cases that you saw earlier. It's important to note that while the MCP connector can act as both a client and a server, that is, there's operations for both sides of the equation, we're going to focus on the implementation of an MCP server in this demonstration. So I'm going to share my screen. Give me a thumbs up, Smile, if you can see it. Great, thank you. So this is an existing API from one of the MuleSoft accelerators. It's an older API, but it interacts with Salesforce in a pretty simple way, so it makes a good candidate for this demonstration. You can see, in addition to a health check endpoint, it also has a couple of methods for dealing with orders, creating and retrieving orders. So in order to get started with the implementation, I actually used Vibes to generate a project skeleton and then subsequently added the API specification as a dependency and had it generate the MCP tool flows. So it generated one per endpoint, and then I guess it figured the health check endpoint was already implemented by the MCP protocol. So I added that again as an additional step. And it generated a fairly simple Mule project, which will look familiar to most of you, with global configuration elements in a global file as per our usual best practices, and then an implementation with all the tool flows. So this is very similar to what you saw in the recorded demo. And really all I needed to configure, aside from the actual host name that the downstream API would be called, is the MCP server configuration. I simply added a request timeout. Because of the downstream API hitting Salesforce, it's live. So the default timeout is 10 seconds. I increased it a bit just to make sure we didn't time out. So all of these all of these flows are fairly straightforward. As you can see, they're pretty simple with what Vibes generated. But you can, of course, add any other processors or Mule components that you like, including flow control. You can add air handlers, as per best practices, scopes, additional transformers, whatever you can do in a Mule application, you can do here as well. And then the response will be sent by the connector back to the MCP client as part of the protocol. So I've already, in the interest of time, I've already gone ahead and deployed this. So let's take a look at it in Runtime Manager. This is the actual upstream Salesforce System API that I showed you the specification for. This is an implementation of that spec. And then here's my actual MCP server that I generated with Vibes and configured and uploaded to here. So you can see the endpoint. I've created a public endpoint for now, which I can copy and paste into the MCP inspector, which I've already done, in order to connect and explore the MP server implementation. So as we connect, we can go to tools. It's already listed the tools here. We can clear it and list it again. So you can see all of these tool listeners that were added to the implementation. And it even included some of the paging parameters by default. So if we want to list the number of orders that are available to us in Salesforce, we can run the tool and we can see the output here. There's a couple of orders that were retrieved from Salesforce. So I can also just go into Salesforce, pick another order here, grab the identifier, and run the get specific order tool, which requires an order ID. And here you can see the output. So obviously this MCP server can be integrated into a client such as Claude, which Smile showed you earlier. For the sake of this deep dive, I didn't do that. I'm just showing you the components themselves. So again, as Smile mentioned, some of the real power of this is not just deploying a Mule app as an MCP server. It's actually governing it right through API Manager. So here in API Manager, I have created an MCP server demo instance, which is configured for that downstream server that I deployed earlier. And now we can get things such as metrics. We can view what the requests are made, how many requests are happening, and we can also apply policies. So an MCP server requires the MCP support policy. The documentation says that this is required to avoid errors. I haven't seen any issues, but it does also enable the total MCP calls, which is an additional metric that would be displayed on the dashboard. And we can, excuse me for one moment, we can also add additional policies. Now that we've deployed this is deployed, by the way, in Flex Gateway on Cloud Hub 2. So here we can take a look at the actual gateway usage. And if you had more MCP servers that were also deployed, endpoints were deployed through this gateway, which you do have some, then you would see the aggregated metrics here. So this public endpoint to the gateway allowed me to actually hide the MCP server if I wanted to. So when I configured it here, let's take a look at this in detail. You can see that the upstream, hopefully you can read that, the upstream URL uses the internal endpoint because it's deployed to the same gateway or the same Cloud Hub 2 environment. So that allows me to remove the public endpoint for the MCP server if I so choose. For the purpose of this demo, I left it in. But so now we can actually make calls to the gateway instead of directly to the MCP server. So let's take a look at that. So this is the same instance. So this was the Cloud Hub to endpoint. That's the direct endpoint to the server. And now this is going through the gateway. Okay, so say it looks the same, but now we have governance over it. So here I can, for example, add an additional policy. And you can add inbound, outbound policies. You can add authentication, like client ID or enforcement, basic authentication. You can add a header injection going both directions. Well, for the purpose of this, we're going to add the MCP schema validation policy. So that ensures that each request that is made to the server is compliant with the specification. Again, there's an order to these policies. I think the documentation indicates that MCP support must be added first. They are applied in order from top to bottom on inbound requests, and on responses back to the caller, they are applied in reverse order. So this would be the last one. So now we can actually take a look at this in a different client, as I mentioned, which is in Postman, and we can get our specific order again. And we can see Postman renders the response slightly differently, but you can see that it also goes through the gateway, and it's returning the similar responses to what we saw in the MCP inspector. That's largely what I wanted to cover for this. I should take a pause here and see if there are any questions that have come up that I can address at this time.
Yes, Kevin, we have a few questions in our chat box. The first question from Yukandar. For each API, do we need one MCP, or for multiple APIs, we can use same as MCP?
I would say that you can combine them if you wanted to. Again, it's for maintenance and performance reasons. You typically don't want to overload a single Mule app. So this particular Mule app is a pass-through, so it's very, very lightweight. So if you wanted to combine like Salesforce orders with Salesforce customers with Salesforce product management, you could definitely do that. But it's always a trade-off, right, between making it too large such that it undergoes a lot of revision versus too small where you're using up vCores or usage-based subscription and flows unnecessarily, because each MCP tool flow, it counts as a flow against your subscription for usage-based.
Yeah, makes sense. And the second, how MCP differ from AI plugins?
How does it? I'm sorry.
How the MCP servers are differ from AI plugins?
From AI plugins? I'm not familiar with that.
I think you mean to say from A2A agents, maybe, because that's one of the questions that I saw. But yeah, I'm not sure
probably
what plugin is either.
Got it. So we can.
But if the question, as I think Victor rightly pointed out as well, A2A protocol is a protocol which allows agents to talk to each other. Agents built on different systems, but if they follow the A2A specification, they're able to identify each other, know what skills are there. And MCP is where you enable that communication from the systems, LLMs to systems. So yes, agents can call MCP tools and MCPs, and it is more efficient and more scalable than maybe an agent directly calling an API, which would be like a custom implementation or hand-coded development. So these are some of the reasons or some of the advantages of having MCPs. But yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the next question is from Sridharan. So will MCP servers runs only in Flex Gateway, or it can run in Cloud Hub 2.0 or RTF as well?
It can run in Cloud Hub 2. If you want to apply MCP policies to it, it has to be Cloud Hub 2 and Flex Gateway for those policies specifically. But you can run it on, as far as I know, you can run it on any runtime architecture that you can deploy a Mule application to. Now, the minimum Mule runtime is 4.9.6.
Okay. Sridhar, that has answered your question. Okay. And next question is from Bharadwaj. Since the MCP tool listener is different from standard HTTP listener, how do we correctly apply the MuleSoft API manager policies like client ID enforcement or what?
Yeah, it's actually not separate. So I didn't walk all the way through it, but if you look at the MCP configuration, it takes for a streamable HTTP server, which is what most people should be using. SSE has been deprecated. It actually uses an HTTP listener under the hood, right? So your listener is a standard HTTP configuration listener, so you can apply the same usual typical policies to it. So if we take a look at our policies here, we can add an inbound policy for, as I mentioned, I think it's under compliance, client ID enforcement, right? And if you add that policy for if you're using MCP as a client, you can configure the MCP client headers to pass the if you do it as headers, you can use the client configuration to pass the headers to the target server, or you can also use basic authentication, of course. But yeah, most of the standard policies apply, including basic authentication through LDAP, IP allow list.
Yeah, so there are several like out-of-the-box policies as well. But again, if your needs are greater than the ones that are offered out of the box, then you can always create your own as well.
I hope that answers your question. Were there any others?
I see one from Victor. How do you set the agent like Claude in order to pass the certificate to the gateway? Is there a standard for the agent config? I'm not sure if I understand the question, but Kevin, do you?
No, I'm not entirely sure of that one either. What certificate would we be passing to the MCP server?
Right. Maybe Victor, if you want to clarify that question a bit, we can take it up at the later half. Let's do this. We have a couple of more slides to go, where I wanted to discuss some of the use cases that we have seen with the customers, and then maybe a little bit on what we are thinking to do from the roadmap perspective, and then we'll get back to the questions. Does that sound all right?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, thank you. So yeah, some of the customer stories I put in here. I think one of the I mentioned during the recorded demo that was also one of the use cases that we had picked from real life situation. There's another one where one of the customers who built an internal agent to answer questions on regarding compliance, HR, and policies related basically. So if your organization size grows and you have a lot of employees, you would see hundreds of IT tickets in your ITSM world related to these, or at least that is what this customer particularly is facing. And the complexity is so huge because policies differ from location to location. And if you are a global company, you may have 5, 6, 7 operations in different countries. So there would be individual set of policies. And then based on the levels of the employees, also this changes. So just imagine, getting that IT ticket and a person has to go through all of it and try to answer the query. So this particular customer, what they did, they implemented or used the vector connector. That's also one of the offerings MuleSoft has. And they created a knowledge base out of all the policies that are there, and then use their existing APIs, expose them as MCP tools in conjunction with the knowledge base that they built. And it is working really well, is what I heard as feedback from the customer. More than 90-95% of accuracy they have. They've already betaed their app in production, and they're thinking of expanding the scope. Similarly, there is a healthcare giant who created a massive 65 MCP servers, and it was also like in record just 2 to 3 weeks on top of their existing APIs. Something similar implementation that Kevin was showing you. And think about that, 65 MCP servers in, let's say, 3 weeks. They are implementing their agentic use cases. I know some of them would be just because let's see whether we can do it. But because it's healthcare, they have various departments: patient care, billing, inventory management, compliance, and they leverage their existing MuleSoft investment, their Mule assets, APIs, and quickly transformed them into agent-ready assets. There was a very recent customer use case that I heard of. They are trying to solve it. It's still in POC, but imagine the service industry where all your when a service personnel goes to a site and they have to figure out what's wrong with the machinery or with the setup of the plant, then they can have the customer is building a chatbot which has access to all the SOPs, all the documentation for different machinery with them. So in real time, the service personnel can ask those questions and get more and more information in terms of what it can solve. And one of the other scenarios that I heard was from a pharmaceutical company, and they're running clinical trials, and they had a lot of payment related issues because for every clinical trial, they need to make payments to the participants, payments to the vendors, payments to the place where they are holding these trials. And it's very critical and very sensitive. And they get a lot of exception details from their traditional ERPs and system of records. And what they do, they have now converted those the knowledge base of those exception details and how they were solved, use their history, converted them into a vector database again, and they present these action items based on the knowledge base for the new tickets or the new issues that they get to the payable agents, or humans sitting behind payable systems. And the agent kind of orchestrate the whole flow and gathers all the data and analyzes the issues and give them recommendations in terms of resolutions. While the complete flow is not automated because it's related to payment systems, there has to be a human involvement. And but this has significantly reduced the turnaround time on the tickets, and also the laborious work of finding the resolution for those exceptions by the payable agents, or the account payable humans, basically. And we have seen many more use cases similar in nature, but I kind of highlighted these 3 or 4 because they cover different industries. They cover the use of existing APIs. They also cover use case related to other systems. We have seen MCP servers like even Snowflake and Workday, that customers have put our MCP connector in front of these connectors, and they have had successful POCs as well as app developed for the use cases that they are solving. And that's what the kind of support or that's the enablement that MuleSoft MCP support has brought in to the use cases that we see in the market. And with this, let me take you to a little bit what we are thinking, or how we are taking forward the investment in this connector. And of course, let me just mention here that these are forward-looking statements. None of these statements can be used for or can be tied to any hard deadlines or times. These are things that we want to deliver, but with safeguarding statements and warnings that this is not actually a commitment to deliver. We have done some usability improvements. We have tried to make it easier to configure the MCP servers, the server connections in the tools. And we have also done some improvements in connection and disconnection handling. So these are all already done. We also added some support. We saw some issues related to serialization for the nested objects. That also was done. Currently we are trying to work on SDK upgrade, staying on top of how the specification evolves. Though I think earlier I mentioned that we use underlying Java SDK, so we are in lockstep with whatever the latest SDK is, and that's what our vision is, to implement the features supported by the Java SDK. Also because the spec might have come in with the very latest version, but there are still improvements that are being made, and we have seen some instability there. So we are monitoring it and trying to upgrade to the latest spec smartly rather than at a rush. Um, we are looking at features like implementing prompt templates and structured tool outputs. So structured tool output is something where, if you get a response from a tool, instead of just raw text, you get it in a structured format, so that you can then work on some sort of automation after you get the output, and store them in, and have a possibility or capability of storing them in variables. Would love to see if these kind of features have, or you guys have heard of any use cases that will get solved with these. Would love to partner and see how we can implement, or maybe just validate the use cases that you have. Prompt templates, of course, clients and like all these powerful agents like Cursor and Claude and all, they support prompt templates. But imagine a situation when I am a MCP server or a tool developer, and if I can give instructions on how customers should use this and offer some sort of prompt templates as part of the server itself, how organized or structured it would be. So that's the idea behind it. We also have heard requirements from a couple of customers asking for this, and that's why it's in our roadmap. Then there are some experimental features which we are trying to implement as well, like elicitation. And elicitation is basically, where the tool operations pauses on instruction from the developers, and then asks for more information before the tools can be called. So these kind of features, enable you to build servers or the Mule apps, which act as MCP servers with greater capability or more depth and gravitas, and can unlock more use cases that customers have, and finally help them move from POCs to production as well. So that's what our thinking is. That's where we are trying to invest, and being in touch with the customers and their requirements, and just staying at the forefront of MCP ecosystem. After this, I've just gathered a list of sources, some blog series, some announcement pages, and just some sort of FAQ pages. I'm not sure whether this presentation goes out to all of you, but I'll talk to the moderators how it works out. But there are links behind these, and if needed, we can share these so that you'll have ready to go, at least demos or information which you can look at your leisure. And yeah, with that, I think we can again open up to questions.
I think that really helps us if you can.
Yes, ma'am. You can share these slides with us, and we will share it with the community when we are wrapping up this event. Okay. And
Yeah.
when it comes to the questions, let me open the box. Okay. So for an already existing API, if I want to create an MCP, it will again consume the extra replicas in MuleSoft. I think it's kind of deployment. Smile or Kevin, did you get the question?
Is that the one that I answered to Victor? It shows up as Aisha's name. I don't know why, but
yeah, okay.
I was doing the typing.
Sure, I got it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to see if for a larger audience, do we need to explain that answer?
Yeah, I'm not sure I fully understand the question, Victor, especially with what you just added. The generally the implementation of, let's say, a system API or something that connects to a backend system. If you already have an existing API and an existing implementation, then I would create a new application for the exposing it as an MCP server. If you have alternatively, if you have a backend system that you want to connect to that you don't have an API for, regardless of what system it is, then you just need to expose it as an MCP server and not as a REST API, then you could just connect to the server, the provider directly from your MCP server application. So there's no need to have to introduce an API just to connect to another system, if that's what you're getting at.
Yeah, the great. And the next question from Eduardo. So, any chance you have got any regulatory issues or audit issues on the MCP kind of setup till now? Or
No, not really. We have not heard any such sort of security incidents. Um, I am not sure with Gateway, but yeah, I mean, we would have heard definitely. So yes, we haven't heard. I don't want to say yet, but no, we have not.
okay. So yeah, most of the we have covered most of the questions,
All right.
and
And like
if
maybe
you
just
guys have any questions,
add on to
uh,
that, right? So there are security teams within Salesforce who who also regularly scan and check all the products that we release, and they are our like arbiter, like the last uh, line as well. And whatever issues that were raised have already been addressed, and we try to act on behalf of customers and try to ensure the quality that goes out. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I think there are a couple of questions about Cloud Hub CH1 support. So I think Kevin mentioned that you can build and deploy an MCP server in sort of any kind of deployment that is kind of offered from MuleSoft. However, there are advanced capabilities like governance, and if you're looking for that as well, and which I would assume you would want to protect it before you expose it to your customers or your wider audience users, then that's what comes from or is offered from Flex Gateway, which is available on Cloud Hub 2 or RTF. Yeah.
yeah, I think we are good and we are on time. And just before we are closing this session, and just want to let you know we are sending a feedback form. Please fill this feedback, and you can request any new sessions you wanted on this or other topics or trending topics or you interested topics. It could be anything. Please fill those feedback forms, and please watch out. We will be coming up with a hands-on session probably in the Hyderabad. Uh, Whoever interested, just go through this uh, uh, first kind of information whatever we have provided in this session, and you could probably ready with the hands-on session for the next whenever we have these time slots. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining, and thank you Smile, and thank you Kevin. It's a great session. Thank you everyone. And Ravi or Beauty, do you want to add something?
Yeah, thank you, Smile and Kevin. If anyone really want to ask, also still 1 or 2 minutes, you can ask directly. Get an opportunity to directly talk to the engineering team. Okay,
Yeah, we are
but
open
it's
up.
good actually.
Just
We have
unmute yourself.
around 100 people join. That's good. Even working day. Uh,
Yeah,
Team, you can ask the question. We have one
you
minute.
can raise your hand and we can go one by one. Okay, that
Yeah,
makes sense. Yeah. All
Beauty, if you want, you can speak also.
Yeah, I just want to conclude that thanks everyone for joining the session and taking the time for this particular session. I hope this would it's something you all would have learned. And yeah, as we have mentioned, we have the feedback form. You can give us the feedback on that. So thanks everyone for joining.
So I
Thanks
think
all.
Eduardo has raised his hand.
Yes, very quick question. I require just an explanation. I do believe that I saw kind of MCP inspection tool. I'm not aware of it. Is it actually part of the offering, or it's a separate tool?
It's a separate tool. It's provided actually by the Model Context Protocol.io group. So they provide the specification as well as the MCP Java SDK plus SDKs for other languages, as well as the MCP inspector.
Very good, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Ganga Prasad next.
Yeah, hi. I have a question that this MCP server, where actually it resides, whether it will be deployed inside a VPC, or is it mandatorily needed to be inside VPC, or how is it?
It's not mandatory. I mean, it's generally recommended, to deploy Mule applications behind a VPC so that they're protected, or at least a gateway. But it's not mandatory unless you want to protect it with MCP policies and Flex Gateway, in which case it has to be deployed to a private space in Cloud Hub 2.0.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
I see Victor's hand.
Yeah. So can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. So my question about what happened is you have an experience API, right? You have an API key. You expose whatever endpoints. So now my point is recommended to use the same API and just drag and drop through when the API call to all those endpoints to drag and drop the HTTP listener to the MCP listener. In that way, the same API, the same endpoint work as a HTTP REST call or as an MCP call. Or is that recommended to create another API with just using the MCP listeners, and then maybe call again the other API to get the responses? You got it?
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. So what I was trying to respond with is that, I mean, they're two different protocols, right, entirely. MCP uses JSON RPC as opposed to a REST protocol. So if you have an existing API and you have existing consumers of that API, I would be concerned about also exposing it to agents, right? Because that would increase the load, and you may not be able to manage that load properly if you're using the same application for two entirely different contexts. I think it would be better to separate that out and manage your MCP server independently, and it can just delegate to the Experience API. That way you can load balance both, is what I was trying to get at.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you everyone. It's a great session, and we will looking forward to have such kind of interviews. Interactive sessions in the future. So just look out for it. Thank you everyone. Thank you speakers.
Thanks everyone.
And
Thanks all.
yeah,
Have a great evening.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Thank you.